Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 8 of the Choose UCalgary Podcast. My name is Karah, and I'm going to be your host this season. Currently, I'm a student at the University of Calgary in the Sociology and Global Development Studies programs, and this season we're going to be talking to an array of guests about everything UCalgary, so stay tuned for more exciting episodes to come. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 8 of the Choose UCalgary Podcast. Today, we're joined with Jolene Maude, the Assistant Registrar for Undergraduate Admissions, and she's going to speak with us today on everything admissions-based at the University of Calgary. So just to start us off, I'll just have you tell me a little bit about yourself and your position at the University of Calgary in the admissions department.
Yeah, so I'm the Assistant Registrar, Undergrad Admissions, which essentially means I oversee the entire undergrad process, everything from high school to transfer and all of our international folks, and just making sure that our students who are applying are having a good experience and getting answers as soon as we can.
Amazing. So just jumping into it, a general question, do you know how many different programs the University of Calgary offers its undergraduate students?
Yeah, there is around or perhaps a few more than 250 program combinations that students can study here at UCalgary.
That is quite a few different things to pick between. So with so many different options, is there a way that students can apply for more than one program in fall 2024?
You bet. So on the undergrad application, students will have the opportunity to select two different program choices. So a first choice and second choice. We do always suggest that students choose whichever program they're most excited about as their first choice, and then use that second choice as more of a strategic choice, just in case they're not admissible to the first choice.
Amazing. So if students get admitted into their second choice program, is there still an opportunity to be admitted into their first choice program after the fact?
Yes. So the way that we do our undergrad evaluations is we do look at both choices kind of each time we're evaluating an application. And if we're unable to admit to the first choice, but we can offer a student a seat in their second choice program, we go ahead and we do that. But we will continue to evaluate that first choice every time we get additional grades.
Perfect. That sounds amazing, especially for students who maybe, along the way get into their second choice and still want that first choice really badly.
Yeah.
So do you know what different fees go along with submitting an application to the University of Calgary?
Yes. So students will have to pay an application fee, and we suggest doing it right at the time that you apply. The easiest way to pay it is through a credit card, just right in the application. And there's sort of two different fees, and what you have to pay for the application is dependent on where you've studied. So students who are applying with domestic credentials only, so you've only ever studied in Canada, you'll have to pay $125 for the application fee. If you have attended any institutions outside of Canada, we consider you an international applicant because you're coming in with international credentials, and then your application fee will be $145.
Perfect. And I know you said that you can pay with credit card in the application. Are there any additional ways that students are able to pay this fee?
You bet. So there are a host of different ways that students can pay all of their fees at the institution. The second best way would be through online banking, and there are different options on our website for students who are coming in from international locations, because I know that sometimes that can be a little bit challenging. So we have tried to outline all of the options really quite clearly online, so the students know what their options are and they can pick one that works best for them.
So, kind of moving on into applications a little bit more, when do our applications open, and then what are the advantages for students to apply early for applications?
Yeah, so we are in August now, and our international application actually opens in a few days. So international students applying with international citizenship will be able to apply as of August 15th. And then all of our other apps will open on October 1st. So the best sort of way to explain the advantage of applying early is simply that as soon as we get your application, and especially for our high school students, as soon as we get all of the documents that include your grade 11 grades, we can go ahead and do an evaluation. We don't necessarily need to see the grade 12 because our first evaluation for high school students will be based on everything you've completed up to the end of the grade 11 year. Offers won't start going out until early November, which is typically when our first round will go out. But the sooner you apply and the sooner you get documents in, the sooner you're going to hear back from us.
Amazing. And then just speaking a little bit more to that early admission process, I know this is a question that we receive quite often, but for students who haven't completed any grade 12 courses left, how do we evaluate them?
You bet. So our early admission process is really based on the grade 11 classes. So each of our programs will have sort of a set list of specific grade 11 classes that we need to see in order to complete an early evaluation. So if all you've ever completed is grade 11 classes, that's what we're going to look at to see if we can grant an early admission offer. We don't grant a lot of our offers on early based on grade 11 only. The vast majority of our offers will go out after that first term of the grade 12 year, once we have some of those grade 12 classes. And again, we will just continue to review that application as soon as we receive additional grades.
Awesome. Thanks for talking about that a little bit more. And I know many students have questions about our equitable and inclusive admissions process. Are you able to speak to this process a little bit more?
Yeah, so equitable and inclusive admission, I call it EQ or EQA, is really the University of Calgary's way of recognizing that students are coming in with diverse identities and unique backgrounds and experiences, and it really is an opportunity for students to speak to that experience and have their admission evaluation considered in the context of their personal experiences. It's really designed to allow for consideration of a broad range of experiences, including things like, persevering through hardships or really excelling outside of academics or overcoming systemic barriers. So that's really the heart of this process. And all it is an additional checkbox on the application that students would need to select to say, yes, I would like to be considered under this process. And then you would need to submit a personal statement as well, kind of outlining your experience and your background and all of those pieces. And if you are not admissible through our competitive process, then we would go ahead and look at you through the equitable and inclusive admission process, which is all completed at the faculty with a very specific admission committee that's looking at all of those personal statements and considering all of those pieces within the context of the program you're applying to and the grades that you're bringing and all of the pieces. It's very much a holistic approach.
That sounds like a really great process for students. Just jumping off this topic, are you able to speak a little bit more about the additional pathways that the University of Calgary offers to its applicants?
Yeah, so the one that comes to mind is our Indigenous admission process. And there's a few different layers to Indigenous admission. But again, ultimately, it's an opportunity for us to consider different components of a student's background in admission. And a lot of these applications are looked at, again, by faculty-specific admission committees. There is an opportunity for students to come in through a bridging program and complete some additional 30-level classes before they move into the sort of meat and potatoes of the major that they're studying. And it's a really great opportunity for students to get in and get started at the institution, along with some additional supports within the academic programs. Ultimately, they're designed and set up to allow students to be successful at the University of Calgary. And then the other one that is sort of brand new is our Open Studies pathway to undergraduate. And so Open Studies is a registration category that we've had at the University of Calgary for a number of years. And now we have a pathway in place where students can move quite smoothly from Open Studies into select programs in the Faculty of Arts or Faculty of Science based on different admission requirements than the competitive process. So again, if you're, we always want to see students apply for undergrad admission and be looked at and considered through the competitive process. And then we would really only lean on one of these pathways if students are inadmissible through the competitive pathway. Yeah, it's really exciting.
That sounds like a really cool new program that we're bringing in this year. Going a little bit more into pathways, many students are stuck between starting their post-secondary journey at a college and transferring to the University of Calgary, or taking a gap year from their studies. But what instances would you suggest either of these to take for students?
Yeah, I think every student's journey into or through post-secondary education is going to be unique to them. And so I would really just encourage students who are, kind of on the fence about what they want to do and where they want to go to really, spend some time reflecting on what are your goals and where do you want to go? What do you want to be doing? I think regardless whether you start at a college or a technical institute, maybe then you work for a little while and then you come back to pursue a bachelor's degree. Or if you want to take a gap year and work or travel or do something else, those are both really valid ways to get to the University of Calgary. And I would say if you're kind of on the fence and you're not really sure what fits, come and chat. Our recruitment team is more than happy to connect to say, where are you at academically? What are you thinking? Are we a good fit? And are we a good fit for right now? Our admissions team will have the same conversation. I think whichever, direction students take, I think as long as it's a good fit for them personally, we're always going to be here to support. And we are more than happy to help and provide information so that students can make really solid, educated decisions about what's next for them.
Definitely, yeah. That's some great advice for those incoming students. And then moving on a little bit, do we have any resources that transfer students can use to get an idea of their transfer credits before submitting an application to the University of Calgary?
Yes, so relatively recently we launched an online transfer credit search tool. So this is a really good place for students transferring in or looking at transferring into the University of Calgary to get a sense of whether or not the courses they've completed will transfer in, and if so, what will they transfer in as? So I guess some caveats on the search tool is that it only includes courses that we have looked at. So anything that exists in our database has been, assessed or seen before because somebody who has applied has come in with that course. So you might search a class and have it return no results. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to get transfer credit for that class. It just means that we've never looked at it before. So it's a really good tool to kind of get a general sense. The best way to figure out what transfer credit you're going to get and how it might apply into a degree program here is actually just to apply. We can't do a pre-assessment for students. We just don't have the ability to do that at this point. But ultimately, by submitting an application and submitting all of your documents, that's what we are committing to, is to evaluate your file, take a look at your transfer credit, and give you a sense of what you're going to get when you get here as a transfer applicant. Our transfer tool currently only includes domestic institutions. So students coming in from international post-secondary won't see anything in there. But again, it doesn't mean it's not going to get you transfer credit. It's just that we won't be able to tell you what transfer credit you'll get until a little bit later.
Mark your calendars. The University of Calgary Open House is set to take place on October 28th, 2023 on our main campus. This is your opportunity to connect with over 40 faculties and services, explore different programs, and learn about UCalgary campus life. Register for this amazing event today.
Now, kind of moving into the application process, once students have submitted their application, are they actually able to go in and make changes, or is it set in stone?
Not set in stone. Not until the application deadline, at least. So students can pop back into their application to, change application choices, right up until March 1st, which is the application deadline. So yeah, if you haven't been given an offer of admission by end of February, I think that's a really great opportunity to connect with our team, either with the recruitment team or the admissions team, to get a sense of kind of where you're at and what you can do to be a little bit more strategic to give yourself the best chance of gaining admission. And then, yeah, you can make changes right up until that March 1 deadline.
That's really nice to have that flexibility. And I know this is a question that we receive quite often in recruitment and admissions, but is there an option to change your program once you've actually started classes at the University of Calgary?
Yes, it's also not set in stone then. So absolutely, students are able to shift between different programs or majors once they're a current student. So it's more of like an internal, we call it a change of program application, but it's relatively painless to make that change, and there's lots of really great faculty advisors on campus that are more than happy to connect with you and give you a sense of what that process looks like and what the timelines are and all of those pieces.
That's amazing. Now we're just going to go over a little bit of terminology that students may see when they're exploring UCalgary and the programs that they offer. So are you able to speak to the difference between a dual degree, a double major, embedded certificates, and minors?
Yes. So dual degrees or double majors and double majors, there's definitely a little bit of a difference between them. So a dual degree or a combined degree is when students are actually completing two different programs at the same time, and they're working towards two separate credentials. So a student in a combined degree would be working towards, a Bachelor of Arts in one program and a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science in a different program. And so at the end of the day, you're going to walk away with 2 degrees, and it will take you a little bit longer to get through all of those program requirements because it's 2 degrees. So typically students coming in to do a dual degree or a combined degree would be looking at least 5 years because they have that additional workload that they have to get through. Students doing a double major are working towards one credential. So they would be working towards one Bachelor of Arts or one Bachelor of Science, but they would be focusing their courses in 2 different areas of study, so 2 different major fields. And so at the end of the day, for these students, they would be walking away with 1 degree, 1 credential, but they would have 2 different majors included on their parchment, and their courses will be very much geared towards these 2 different areas of study. Embedded certificates and minors they're sort of like little mini credentials that students can do within their combined degree or within their major program. And really it's a certain set of classes to achieve the little mini credential. Embedded certificates are a little bit smaller than a minor, so you would do fewer classes to achieve the embedded certificate, whereas minors are typically a little bit bigger and would require a few more classes. But both of these are included on the parchment when you graduate as well, so the fact that you've done the certificate or the minor would be recognized by the institution.
Awesome. Thanks for clearing those terms for us. So following that up, how many of these options can students add right away on their application, and which ones would students wait to add in their degree?
Excellent question. So on the application, students can only apply into one major. So you won't be able to apply for a double major or any of the minors or embedded certificates when you initially apply into the institution. There are some ways to combine programs within the app. So if you wanted to apply to a joint degree or a combined degree, you can do that in the application, understanding that some combinations just can't happen. So ultimately, students are applying into one major field and potentially into a combined degree right in the app. And then you'd be looking at adding an embedded certificate or a minor or a double major, once you get into that sort of second, third year. And all of those pieces are added through that internal change of program process.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then kind of wrapping up here, what would your advice be to a student who is a bit confused about the application process?
Come and chat. We have an amazing team of recruiters and admissions folks who are more than happy to sit down and chat with students, give you a really, solid understanding of how to be strategic in applying, all of the different pieces that you need to be mindful of. I like to think that it's a pretty straightforward process, but for sure there might be nuances within your education history that are causing confusion. And yeah, if there's anything that comes up throughout the application process that you're not sure about, or if there's an item on your to-do list that's been there for a while and you're not sure, give us a call, book a meeting, set up a time to come in and have a conversation. We're more than happy to meet with our applicants and our prospective students and really help them get here and have a really good experience in getting here.
And then just last question, are there any changes to admissions that students applying for fall 2024 can expect to see?
Yeah, I think there's not a lot of changes. I think everything is quite similar to past cycles. I guess the one thing that might be a little bit different is that some of the estimated competitive admission average ranges on the website within the widget and perhaps within the view book might look a little bit different to folks that know what things have looked like historically, and some of them might seem a little bit low, which I think is actually a really great thing because it's reflective of the fact that we've received additional funding from the province to expand in some programs, and I think that's really great to be able to offer additional seats, and it does help in making our programs a little bit more accessible and definitely still competitive, but having more seats in some of our key programs I think is a really good thing, and so yeah, if anything, maybe that will look a little bit different, but in a really good way.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us on the first episode of Season 8 of the Choose UCalgary podcast.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the first episode of Season 8 of the Choose UCalgary podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date on all things UCalgary, and stay tuned for the next episode. DM us if you have any questions.